right, guys. All right, welcome to another night of workout. Raj Bhavsar is going to join us. He's the guy who invented the Bhavsar. I'm sure you guys have probably heard of that skill or seen it. He's a two-time Olympian and a medalist, and he's very influential in our sport. And I wanted to invite him so that you guys could maybe hear what it was like to be in the Olympic Games and teach himself and to learn and develop the skill that is named after him. Right now, what I want to do is introduce you to the guy who invented the Bhavsar, Raj Bhavsar. All right, so this maybe what we can do is just start off with just introducing Raj in terms of the things in gymnastics that he accomplished. Although having known Raj, I think that his personality and his kindness is probably the most important one of these accolades. But Raj is an American Olympic gymnast and medalist, and he earned a bronze medal as a member of the 2008 U.S. Olympic team. In 2004, he was also the alternate to the Olympic team. He created two new gymnastic skills. I don't know if there's many people aside from Sukahara that can say that. They're now named after him. The first is a strength move on rings, and then parallel bar is the skill that you just saw. Raj continues to be involved in the sport as a coach and as an advisor and a consultant and a hardworking member of the USA gymnastics community. And right now he's the men's program director at Waller's Gym Jam in California. So it's my pleasure to introduce to you guys Raj Bhavsar.
Yeah, hello everybody. It's so good to be here. Daniel, thanks for the introduction. And I love seeing all these faces, and I'm incredibly impressed that you all have chosen to show up every day and decided to stay physically fit and do what gymnastics you can in your living rooms or in your rooms. It's incredible. And I am honestly just happy to be a part of this and share this moment with all of you. I know it's tough. Just like all of you, I want to be in the gym. I love being in the gym, even though I'm no longer competing, but I'm a coach, and the gym is like a second home for me. And I'm sure for a lot of you, it's the same way, but we're all in this together, and it's temporary. Okay. The best thing you're doing is exactly what you're doing by keeping your dream alive and continuing to work no matter what environment you're in. So I congratulate all of you, and I'm very happy to be here.
If you wouldn't mind indulging me, my first question is, it could be the case that you're some of these guys' gymnastics heroes. So who were your gymnastics heroes when you were watching gymnastics?
Awesome question. I had several when I was growing up. I don't know if you guys are old enough to remember these names, but guys like Blaine Wilson, John Roethlisberger, Jair Lynch, Chris Waller. I think I was a lot younger watching that Olympics, and it's funny, I'm working with him now today. My American heroes, those were the guys that I wanted to be when I was your age, because they were out competing and representing the United States, and that was a dream that I had that started around 12 or 13 years old, and I was very lucky that it came true. I also had some international heroes back then. Vitaly Sherbo was someone that I watched. Grigory Misutin, if you guys remember these names, Bondarenko and Fedorchenko. And I was lucky to be coached at one point in my life by Dmitry Bilizerchev. So he's also a hero of mine.
Obviously, you were present at 2 Olympic Games. I could only imagine what that was like. Can you try to describe the feeling of walking into the Olympic ceremonies?
Oh, yeah. Well, maybe you guys don't know this. Unfortunately, as gymnastics, we don't participate in the opening ceremonies because we are literally competing the next day. And at the opening ceremonies, you're on your feet for perhaps 6 to 8 hours. And so it's very difficult to attend opening ceremonies of the Olympics and then go compete the next day. So what we treat as our opening ceremonies is our first day of prelim competition. When we first walk into the arena, that's when it hits us. So like all of you, we have to watch the opening ceremonies on TV, but I can tell you about when you walk into the arena the first time at the Olympics, it's the word that I always use is surreal, which means it's so bigger. It's bigger to me than almost reality. You feel like you're living a dream. And, you know, as gymnasts, our feet rarely touch the ground based on our sport. But at the Olympics, it was almost like I was floating through it mentally. My feet were never on the ground because the event is so big and it's so grand that it hits you, you know, that you're here, you finally arrived. I'll never forget that first day walking into the arena. It's pretty special.
I mean, no doubt it's probably fair to say that you were relatively nervous. Do you have a special thing that you do or that you can help the guys dealing with nervousness and maybe fear of competition? Was there something that you did that made it so that you had a little bit easier time competing, especially at the Olympic Games?
Yeah, you hit the right word. You have to have tools. So the same way we have drills for gymnastics and for all the physical, those same kinds of drills and tools exist for the mental. So, you know, one of them, and for me, the most powerful was breathing. So, you know, the fear, you kind of have to realize, or the nervousness, that it's not going to go away, but you learn to manage it the same way, you know, you manage a gymnastics routine. So rather than trying to fight it and say go away, you just have these tips, tools, and tricks to say maybe bring your heart rate down. That was one thing that worked for me, and I would do something called box breathing, or inhale for 6, hold for 2, and exhale for 7. And I would do that enough number of times that I could feel my heart rate come down. And usually when my heart rate came down, it centered my thoughts. And then I was able to get into the competition zone that I wanted. But you have to accept at that level that there is going to be elevated nerves. There's a lot of eyes and a lot of cameras and pressure. And that's why we always say at the top of the sport, really all the physical preparation has been done. And competing at that level is almost 90% mental. And you guys will be there one day and you'll remember some of these words that, oh yeah, the physical is done in the gym. And then when I get to a big competition, it's all about my mental preparation. You guys can start developing those good habits now, and that's how you compete well.
Now, there's probably routines that at the Olympic Games stand out to you. Obviously, you won a bronze medal in the Olympic Games, totally amazing. But there might have been a routine in college or a routine that you even did in high school that stands out as the most exciting routine that you ever did. Can you tell me what was the most exciting or memorable routine, and can you kind of like put us in the environment and what you were thinking and what went down?
Yeah, I think the first one that comes to mind was during my college career. I went to Ohio State University from 1999 to 2003. And during that time, it was after my junior year, and I was going into my senior year and getting ready for world championships and all of those things. And before that happens, there's NCAA championships. And at that NCAA championships, I was suffering a really bad shoulder injury, and I easily could have not competed in that meet just to save my shoulder. But as that meet went on, you know, I was fighting a really bad shoulder, and it came down to rings, and my shoulder hurt so bad during warm-ups that I didn't think it could function. But my team really needed the score. And so rather than me sitting out and, you know, preserving the shoulder, which I could have done, I decided to go for it, even with a bad shoulder. And it was a score that we really ended up needing. And so I did that routine, and it was so painful doing all the giants and all of that stuff, and got to the dismount, which was a double layout. I went for the double layout and pulled on the rings and felt something give out, but I ended up sticking the dismount, and that I got a score that was first place for our team on rings, and then catapulted us into second as a team. And so we were the NCAA runners up that year, but I ended up winning the all around. With that bum shoulder going on, and it all came down to one of the most difficult routines that I have. So that one stands out. The other one that stands out, I can give you a different environment, and that was actually the one you just saw, was the invention or the creation of the Bobstar. Maybe some of you guys don't know, but in order to get a skill named after you, you have to do it on a really big world stage, like a World Championships or a FIG World Cup or an Olympic Games. And that routine where the Bobstar was done for the first time, and a lot of coaches and athletes were all around in the warm-up gym as I was warming it up, and they were like looking over at me because, you know, even a couple came over to me and they're like, "Is this a new skill?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And they're like, "It looks fun." And I'm like, "It's super fun. It's really fun to do." And then when I went out into the competition and did it for the first time, it got a lot of applause because it was just a new way of thinking about parallel bars. And that's the reason I did it. It's a release move, you know, and it came from the tapelt. And I used to warm up a tapelt to a stand on the bar. And then in the gym before the Olympics, I started thinking to myself, what if I could actually do a Tkachev on parallel bars? And we worked it and we worked it. And then one day I was getting so close. One day my coach said, just do it, you know, like get your legs behind you and go for it. And I went for it, ended up catching it. And it was one of the greatest feelings I've ever had. And going back to Russia, when I did it there for the first time, a lot of coaches and athletes came up to me and said, thank you, that's an awesome new skill. And even today, a lot of gymnasts come up to me and either recognize me for it or say, thanks for creating it. And it was a big moment in gymnastics for me.
Do you use chalk or tack or honey, or what did you use to swing on the bar?
So when I was younger, I would use everything that was thrown at me. I tried molasses. I even used to make my own mixture using sugar and soda and then boiling it and getting it real thick. I even tried salt water at one point. But as my career went on, I really just stuck to a little bit of honey. And I would use a wet rag, but more important than that was just mental toughness. Because the bars were rarely ever perfect. They were never the way you exactly want them, but we still have to be tough enough to do the routine that we've been training. But yeah, so I would use honey, just a little bit, and then I would use a wet rag to dab the bars to get all the excess stuff off of it. Somebody who just leaves a bunch of chalk and honey mix on the bar, I take all of that stuff off, and then I go.
Raj, I just want to say on behalf of the rest of the guys, it's an absolute honor and a pleasure to have you on. You're one of my gymnastics heroes, honestly, and I couldn't be happier working with you now in the future, and I look forward to having you on another show.
Thank you, Daniel. It's been awesome. You guys keep working out. We're all in this together. Keep going.
Hands not chalked.